Welcome to the Paying Attention. I'm Brent Beasley. I lead the Fort Worth Education Partnership. And I'm really excited about our guest today, who is my friend Pete Geren. Pete is the leader of the Sid Richardson Foundation here in Fort Worth. Prior to that, was Secretary of the Army. Prior to that, U.S. Congressman. So I'm really excited about this conversation with you today, Pete. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah. One thing I know that you're passionate about is increasing the number of kids in Fort Worth who can read well, who can read at grade level. And I know that you've kind of evolved in your thinking about how philanthropy tackles problems like this. Could you talk about how philanthropy kind of typically approaches something like literacy, and then how you're thinking about approaching literacy and tackling this issue today? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, two things on that. I think philanthropy is blinded by something that blinded you and I when we first started on this work. We didn't appreciate how many kids can't read well. And the small percentage of kids, not just in Fort Worth and Texas, but around the country, that read proficiently. And I remember the day when we were looking at the A, B, C, D, F ratings for the schools, and really thinking that was the way to assess schools, and noticed within those numbers were these literacy percentages that were shocking. Some schools, you had children, percentage of kids reading in single digits. And across the whole city of Fort Worth, it was like a third. And that was an epiphany for me. I never appreciated the gap between our perception of how children were doing as far as literacy and reality. Yeah. And that changed our approach to addressing the literacy issue dramatically.
I've heard you say on that point that when you talk to people about this, that at first they really don't believe it. Like they don't believe that could be true, that few of kids are reading at grade level.
Yeah, and they don't believe it.
Yeah.
And we know from the polling that we've done together that most parents don't know the reading level of their children. And the first poll we did, it was 96% of parents believe their children read at grade level. And the numbers were less than half, or in the Fort Worth ISD, not even a third. And trying to persuade parents that's not the case and they need to do something about it has been hard. And you ask them why they believe their child reads at grade level, and they get all A's and B's on the report card or an occasional C. They get promoted to the next year. And frankly, the schools are not honest with them. They've got a vested interest in shifting the attention to other issues beyond just at grade level reading. And further on philanthropy, I do believe a lot of the less strategic work done by philanthropy is because of that misconception. Philanthropy is just like parents. We believe everybody can read. School building says school, we believe they learn to read, but we've learned that's not the case. But philanthropy is generally very transactional when it comes to addressing the literacy or really any problem within the public school system, any school system. They come up with a new curriculum or a new idea, they make a large grant and expect the school district to change and do it differently, do it the way they want. And there's a lot of flaws to the believing that that's effective. One is just the scale. Fort Worth ISD is $1 billion budget, and even a very large gift from philanthropy is just a drop in the bucket. Getting a 12,000 employee organization to do something differently because some smart guy from philanthropy has a good idea, it's just, they're not going to listen. They'll be nice and act like they're listening, but they're not going to change what they do. Why should they? They're experts, and philanthropists are general practitioners. But the other, and I think a fundamental failing, is not appreciating how democracy works. Public school systems are creatures of a democracy. They're not supposed to listen to one rich person that can write a big check or one person that has an idea. They're supposed to respond to the people. Democracy, if it's being influenced by one or two people, that's not democracy. And the approach that we've taken is embrace the role of democracy in public education. Educate the people. The school district, the school board members, the superintendent is going to listen to the people. It's going to listen to dozens of people and hundreds of people or thousands of people that express their opinions, their positions. That's much more impactful than a philanthropy check, no matter how big it is. Mm-hmm. So our focus really is to inform the public about public education and help them know the facts, and then where we can, give them the tools to engage effectively.
That makes me think of the quote that I learned from you from Lincoln about public sentiment.
Yeah.
And you can probably quote it exactly.
I won't quote it exactly, but it's the heart and soul of democracy, and the only way for a democratic society to work effectively. If public opinion's on your side, you can do anything. If public opinion isn't, you can do nothing. And that's the way it ought to be. Democracy ought to respond to the will and the needs of the people. And it hasn't worked effectively with public education because the people who consume the product, they don't know the facts. And it's not just the kids and their parents that don't know the facts, but communities don't as well. So civic leaders have ignored the challenge.
Yeah. One of the key things that you and I have done together that relates to this is we started to think about how people in Fort Worth needed to know, to your point, how the kids are doing. And we were specifically thinking about city leaders and how many kids are actually performing at grade level in school. And we had a lunch with a former council member, Gina Bivens, and we said, let's try to talk to her about how the kids in her council district are doing. And so we got our friend Layla Santillan, who's a wizard with this kind of stuff, to figure out what schools were in Gina Bivens' council district and how are they doing. And then Layla put that into a one-page document, and we slid that across the table at lunch to Gina and said, here's how the kids that live in your council district are doing. And it was some shockingly low number who were at grade level. I think it might have been like 14%.
Less than 20%, I remember that.
Yeah, and she had this big reaction to that. And I think that was when that was a light bulb moment for us, I feel like.
It was, and I remember the moment very well. She put her head down and she said, this is damnable. Now, and this is a woman who'd spent much of her adult life. One, she had been a television journalist, and then had been on the city council, and she was became mayor pro tem. So few people knew our city or knew her community better than Gina, and she had no awareness of the very low percentage of kids that were reading in grade level in the community that she represented for a very long time. And she's a leader in the community. She is one of 9, now would be one of 11. One of the challenges in Fort Worth is we have 12 different school districts. And it's hard to hold 12 different school districts and 96 school board members and 12 superintendents accountable. Most people can't name their school board members, but they do know their city council members. People trust their city council members with leading their communities. And when we saw how Gina reacted to this, we knew that we had allies among the city council members, and the FWEP reports transition to presenting the data on literacy or at grade level performance and math literacy and overall by city council district. And it's completely transformed the way our city council views the issue of education in our city.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that kind of reporting, which is really just telling the truth about, unveiling it, I guess, really, or uncovering it and telling the truth about how the kids are doing. Like how has that led to, because we've seen a lot of progress and change in this issue, but like how does all that piece together? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that works.
There's so many specific examples of the impact that awareness has had, but it's taken a while. Right. That's an important aspect of this kind of philanthropy or this kind of activism. Just like there's only one way democracy is supposed to work, and that's heed the will of the people. It doesn't happen overnight. And And persuading parents, persuading civic leaders, persuading people that are leaders in the schools that most of the kids can't read is a hard sell. And we've been working on this for over 5 years. And the annual reports by FWEP have been a huge part of it. The other part is local journalism. Both the Star-Telegram and the Fort Worth Report have embraced this mission. And the reporting that they give has adopted the language of Fort Worth Education Partnership. It reports academic performance in terms of at grade level. To my knowledge, no other media organization in the state of Texas does that. And by focusing on that, how are our kids doing? It's easier to understand. It's people can connect, and they also know what the consequences are when kids can't read. So we've had people from all across the civic and nonprofit and an education landscape have, because of the awareness that's grown, you'd think they would have known, but they didn't. But now they do know, and you see so many people step into the fore and taking on this challenge, addressing this crisis. You know, I quote you often, it's not just a civic crisis, it's a moral crisis. Most of our kids can't read, and we all know what that means.
To learn more about Fort Worth Education Partnership, check out our website, fortworthep.org. And we are on Instagram at FortWorthEP.
We do get a lot of questions about, well, what does it mean a child isn't reading at grade level? And for one thing, reading at grade level is a very low bar. And most of our kids in Fort Worth do not read at grade level. But beyond the technical, what does that mean? What is at grade level? You and I, in our work in the community, have run into so many examples of just exactly what this means. I had breakfast one morning with the principal of one of the largest high schools in Fort Worth. And the person hosting the breakfast had graduated from that high school many, many years ago. He's in his 80s. And he asked the principal, what's the biggest challenge you face leading a large high school like that? And without a pause, he said, kids can't read. Kids that come to me in the 9th grade can't read. And my friend said, what do you mean can't read? He said, simple as that, they can't read. And my friend asked him, well, what do you think we should do about it? He said, I think every single 9th grader in Fort Worth should have a double block reading course and learn to read before they get in high school. And I know you've had similar experiences.
Oh yeah, I have a friend in another city who was talking about being at her nephew's birthday party. And I can't remember if he was in middle school or high school, but they were giving the gifts and cards, and she said to him in front, had a all group of friends and family around, she said, read the cards, because he was opening the cards and then putting them away. And she said, read the cards. And she realized in that moment, by his reaction, that he couldn't read the cards. Mm-hmm. And she was shocked. I think we're all shocked to realize that this is actually true. I just thought of another example, someone here in Fort Worth a mom who I heard talk about, she had a 4th grader and a kindergartner, and they had a thing at their school where they asked the 4th graders who were the good students who were 4th graders to go read to the kindergartners, and her 4th grader, who was a good student, made good grades, went to read to the kindergartners, and the 4th grader came home that day and said, Mom, I can't read. I couldn't read to the kindergartners. And the mom, of course, was heartbroken, and she beat herself up a little bit about, I should have known this, but she thought that was happening at school. Things were happening that weren't.
Yeah, and we both have numerous anecdotes like that, but one night I was giving a talk in East Fort Worth, and a middle school teacher came up to me after it was over, and I thought she was going to be angry perhaps, because I did share this data. Yeah. And she said, I'm so glad you're telling this story. She said, I can't even use the whiteboard in my classes. The kids can't read. I can't give homework. I have to give, all the instruction is oral, and the tests are oral. And we've got to do something about it. People need to know until people know, we're not going to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, how do they get through? They just get passed along. Right. Fort Worth ISD 3 years ago had 80% of their children made no grade less than a B, and that was the year 31% of the kids were reading in grade level. It's, we don't tell the parents the truth. The system is just built to keep those kind of uncomfortable truths hidden.
Yeah. And I know we've come to believe that if we're going to make progress on these education issues like this, that we have to have the parents informed and involved. Mm-hmm. And can you talk about kind of the efforts that you're involved in, that I'm involved in, that are mm-hmm. related to helping parents understand how their kids are doing and involving parents? Because I think mm-hmm. that's really a key to all this.
Yeah, and that there's great promise there, but it's slow also. You have to be patient. You got to work with parent to parent to parent. But in Memphis, the way she found out her child couldn't read was ask him to read to her. And that is one of the best things a parent can do. We all know you're supposed to read to your kids, but ask your child to read to you. And in 5 minutes, you're going to know. No literacy expert, but you can know what your expectations are. So if every parent would do that simple test at night, have your child read to you, we would go a long way, just like that 4th grade mom. Her life changed at that moment, and my guess that parent got engaged and that child's life changed from that moment and rescued a child from a very dim future. Yeah. Another organization that we brought to town, mm-hmm. you and I worked together on it, as did Layla, who's been on this program earlier. Mm-hmm. It's Go Beyond Grades. It was started by the Gates Foundation and built on the premise that a parent is a problem solver, and a parent can't solve a problem he or she doesn't know they have. And Go Beyond Grades, its goal is to help parents know how their child is doing. And that data is available. It's in the state database, and it should be available to every kid in Texas. And it's not. It's very hard to reach. And Go Beyond Grades is working with large nonprofits here that serve kids and in teaching those parents how to find out how your child is really doing, but taking it a step further and teaching parents what to do when they know, or if the child is doing well, how they can help the child do better. And the first advice is go see your teacher. And don't just go see them and shoot the breeze, but here's some specific questions you need to ask. And we see Go Beyond Grades and a great leader in Alyssa Studer as it's a parent at a time, it's dozens of parents at a time, it's hundreds of parents at a time. But the partnerships with Campfire and Boys and Girls Club and ACH, the Parent Shield, mm-hmm. Elementary school in Como, those organizations are partners with Go Beyond Grades, and they're helping those parents become better teachers at home for their kids.
Yeah, Parent Shield, we've had their leader, Trinace Dorsey Hollins, mm-hmm. on in our last episode 6 on this podcast, and she was great.
And a big part of what Trinace does and her many, many volunteers is help parents to find out, help mm-hmm. them see with their own eyes that how their child's doing. Yeah. She goes around the city, and she also goes door to door and helps parents know. And we know from personal experience and from focus groups, you give parents that bit of information, your child is not reading at grade level. And that's a problem. And parents are problem solvers. And they're going to go to work right away to solve that problem.
Yeah.
To learn more about today's guest, Pete Geren and the Sid Richardson Foundation, check out their website, sidrichardson.org. And you can connect via email, info@sidrichardson.org.
There's been a lot going on in Fort Worth over the last few years that you and I have been involved with mm-hmm. things that we have not been involved with, but all about growing the number of kids in Fort Worth who can read and do math mm-hmm. at grade level. And I'm just curious, like, what do you think are some of the biggest accomplishments that we've seen over the past couple of years, the biggest wins that we've seen?
As I said at the beginning, if you're going to change public education, you've got to change the politics. And that's Greek to most of philanthropy. And you're not dealing with silver bullets, you're dealing with drops in a bucket. And we talked earlier about Gina Bivens and how that led us to start communicating with the city leadership, because it's a city problem, it's a city crisis. And summer before last, the culmination of years of work was a letter signed by all 11 members of the council that the mayor, Mattie Parker, took down to the 4th ISD board meeting, unprecedented for any politician in Fort Worth history, and said what's happening to our kids is unacceptable. And that was that was an alarm bell that went all through the community. The immediate impact was the superintendent resigned. The follow-on impact was the person who replaced her embraced this commitment to accountability and to at-grade level performance. So 5 years of work put the mayor in a position to lead our community, confront a failing school system, and she's brought about extraordinary change.
Yeah.
And
a couple of things on that real quick. That one, you're doing a great job of bringing in other guests we've had on this podcast. So Mayor Mattie Parker and Karen Molinar, who's the person who stepped into that superintendent's role, that's done such a great job on accountability that you talked about.
And Karen's a great example. Yeah. Her predecessor, till the day she resigned, was saying everything's going great here. Oh, we got no problem. The people that are criticizing us hate public education.
Yeah.
Well, she quietly resigned. Yeah. And her successor, the very first night on the job, said, we've got a reading crisis in this city, and we're going to do something about it. And she started quoting FWEP data, and overnight she started achieving improved results in our schools. And let me give you an example that's related to what she's doing. A lot of individual citizens say, well, what can I do? Well, and they really feel helpless to try to impact any government, and certainly the public education. We have a dyslexia mom, a mom of a dyslexia child, who's starting at the beginning of the school year last year, the 24-25 school year, went to every single school board meeting and talked about the inadequate programming to support children with dyslexia. And she was there every single meeting, and her other dyslexia moms came. They started wearing red. We refer to them as the ladies in red. At the end of that school year, against the wishes of a lot of the school board members, Dr. Molinar moved $30 million out of other programs into reading and completely revamped the dyslexia curriculum. She put in 7th grade screening and ramped up the early grade screening. And she told the school board at a school board meeting, she said, I've been doing this for 26 years. I really didn't know anything about dyslexia. So I want to thank the stakeholders who brought that attention to the stakeholders who brought that to our attention, and we've acted on it. So that started with one mad, determined mom, and others joined her. And in 1 year, they moved $30 million into literacy and completely reformed the dyslexia programming in the 4th ISD. So a mayor can make a difference if you build the community support for her, and a single mom can make a difference if you just go down there and exercise your rights as a citizen in the United States of America.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like when we started all this, we never could have predicted what would happen, whether that's with the mayor or with this dyslexia mom, what she would do, but the impact that all of that has had is so great. So thank you for bringing both of those things up. And thanks for doing this. We're going to continue the conversation in another episode.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
This is a Fort Worth Education Partnership production. To watch Paying Attention, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to Paying Attention wherever you get your podcasts.